my fiancée said. I need space, don't disturb me. Then posted pictures with her ex, so I gave her exactly what she asked for. Canceled the wedding, changed the locks, sold the car. 10 days later, she came back panicking. Here's how it all went down. My name is Luke. I'm 29, and I own a custom motorcycle shop in Phoenix. Decent money, nothing crazy, but enough to live comfortably in Arizona. I've been grinding since I was 20 years old. Finally got the shop fully established last year, after busting my ass 60+ hours a week for years. Started with just me in a tiny garage space I rented from an old mechanic who was retiring. Now I've got 4 full-time employees, and a reputation for some of the cleanest custom work in the entire Southwest. The shop wasn't handed to me on a silver platter either. I saved every dollar I made working at other shops. Took night classes on business management. Lived in a studio apartment the size of a shoebox for 3 years, just to build my capital. There's something deeply satisfying about walking into your shop every morning, knowing that every bolt, every tool, every square inch of that place exists because you earned it. I've never been the type to splurge on fancy things. My dad watched his brother lose everything in a nasty divorce back in the 90s. House, retirement savings. Even had to liquidate his small business to cover the settlement. Dad drilled financial responsibility into my head from day one. Luke, build your own safety net, because nobody else will. That advice turned out to be a lifesaver. I remember when I bought my first proper tool set. Dad came over to my apartment, saw me organizing these brand new snap-on wrenches, and just nodded slowly. Good investment. Tools make money. Toys don't. Then he helped me build a custom storage solution for them using scrap wood from his garage. That's my dad. Practical advice, followed immediately by practical help. I bought my apartment 3 years ago, when the market dipped slightly. The rest of my money goes straight to investment accounts and back into the shop. The only exceptions to my frugal lifestyle, my Ducati Monster, midnight black with a custom exhaust that sounds like pure mechanical poetry, and my dog Max. Max is a 3-year-old German Shepherd who's been with me since he was a puppy. I'd take him to the shop sometimes. Customers loved him. He'd just chill by my office, occasionally greeting people with a tennis ball in his mouth. Max has been the most consistent relationship in my life. No drama, no complaints about working late, just pure loyalty. The kind of companion who's equally happy going for a mountain run at 6 in the morning or lying at your feet while you work on engine blueprints at midnight. My fiancée Stacy, 27, and I had been together for 2 years, engaged for the last 6 months. Wedding planned for this fall. Deposits already down on the venue. Catering confirmed. The whole thing mapped out. She'd moved into my apartment after the first year. Things seemed good on the surface. She had her career. I had mine with the shop. We had the future laid out in front of us. Meeting Stacy felt like fate at the time. A friend of a friend introduced us at a housewarming party. She was gorgeous. Blonde hair, always perfectly styled. The kind of woman who turns heads when she walks into a room. Smart, too. Always had the right thing to say to the right people. Knew exactly how to work a room. Our first few dates were perfect. She seemed genuinely interested in my business. Asked all the right questions. Laughed at my jokes. But looking back now, there were red flags I chose to ignore. She'd make comments about my friends being too basic, because they liked sports and gaming. Called my best friend Tristan's apartment a man cave nightmare, just because he had gaming consoles and a big TV. Tristan never liked her much. Said she had princess vibes. Said she was always watching herself, acting differently around certain people depending on what they could offer her. Notice how she talks to that waiter, he'd point out, versus how she talks to your landlord. 2 completely different people. I brushed it off as her being socially adaptable. That's what we do sometimes, isn't it? We see what we want to see. When a woman who looks like she could be on a magazine cover shows interest in you, the warning signs get real easy to overlook. Basic male programming error. I thought we were solid. The relationship was good. She looked amazing at industry events, and I genuinely believed I'd found someone who respected the work I'd put into building my life. When she hinted about marriage, I thought, why not? I was established, ready to start the next chapter. It was a random evening in May. I was prepping dinner. Yeah, I did most of the cooking, even after working all day at the shop while she was too tired from sitting at a desk. My phone buzzed with a text. Luke? Things feel complicated. I'm stressing over the wedding and I really need some space to think and figure things out. Don't contact me for a while, please. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Gut punch doesn't even begin to describe it. 6 months from our wedding and she needs space. No warning, no conversation, just a text, asking me to effectively disappear while she figured things out. But fine. I tried to be understanding. Texted back. Okay, I understand. Take the time you need. Then nothing. Radio silence, which is exactly what she'd asked for. I spent the next couple of days in a fog. Couldn't focus at work. I was trying to finish a custom seat for a '72 Triumph when Tristan stopped by the shop. He watched me sand the leather for about 20 minutes before finally saying, Dude, that seat was done half an hour ago. You're just going through the motions. He was right. I put down the tools, closed the shop early for the first time in months. Tristan came over Thursday night with pizza, sat down across from me and said bluntly, Dude, this isn't normal. Nobody asks for space 6 months before their wedding unless they're doing something shady. I defended her at first. Maybe she's really just stressed. Her mom's been putting a lot of pressure on her about the guest list. Even to my own ears, it sounded weak. Tristan just gave me that look, the one that says you're smarter than this, without needing to say a single word. He's been my friend since high school, seen me through. My mom's death. Helped me move shop locations twice. Never asked for anything in return. The kind of friend who shows up with tools when you mention a project, not excuses when you need help. Then Friday night, I got a text from Melissa. Melissa was one of Stacy's co-workers, someone I'd always gotten along with just fine. Luke, I think you should see this. I feel bad showing you, but you deserve to know. Attached was a screenshot from Stacy's Instagram close friend story. Bright sunshine, beach cocktails. Stacy looking ridiculously happy, arm in arm with Jordan, her ex-boyfriend. The caption read, Living our best lives. Island getaway reunited. Sometimes, you need to revisit the past to see your future clearly. My blood ran cold. Space to think meant a tropical vacation with her ex-boyfriend, while she explicitly asked me for no contact, and she was careless enough to post it on her close friend's story, forgetting that Melissa and I were friendly. I called Melissa for details. Turns out Stacy had told everyone at work she was taking vacation days for a family emergency. Apparently, the emergency involved bikinis, pina coladas, and her ex-boyfriend's tongue down her throat. Melissa sent me several more photos to confirm. The hurt morphed into something else. A cold, hard clarity. She didn't just want space. She wanted me out of the way while she test drove her old relationship, keeping me as a backup plan, in my own apartment, using my resources, while telling me to leave her alone, all while my deposit sat at the wedding venue and her engagement ring sat on her finger. In those beach photos. Fine. Saturday morning. I went into tactical mode. First call. Wedding venue. Cancelled. Lost the $5,000 deposit. But whatever. Cheaper than a divorce. Second call. Caterer. Another $2,000 gone. Photographer. Florist. DJ. One by one, I methodically erased the wedding she'd spent months planning. Next call. Locksmith. Had the deadbolt and knob lock on my apartment door changed. Cost about $250, worth every single penny. I spent the next hour going through paperwork, documenting everything I'd paid for versus what she had contributed. The reality was sobering. My share had been about 80% of all our shared expenses. Next, the ring. Stacy had conveniently left it on her nightstand before leaving. Probably didn't want tan lines in her beach pictures with Jordan. 3-carat diamond, cost me nearly $15,000. I put it in my safe, along with the documentation showing I had purchased it. In Arizona, engagement rings are considered conditional gifts. I'd already looked that up. The car requires a little context. About 6 months earlier, Stacy's old Honda finally died. Timing belt went, bent the valves. Would have cost more to fix than the car was actually worth. She needed reliable transportation for client meetings, but her credit was a disaster. After maxing out credit cards on designer bags and those $300 face creams she couldn't live without, I agreed to help. I bought a used but very solid Mazda 6 for about $18,000. The loan, title, and insurance were all solely in my name. I'm not stupid. My dad's brother made that exact mistake. Let his ex-wife drive a car he was paying for during their separation. She totaled it, wasn't properly insured, and he still had to pay off the loan while being sued by the other driver. Not happening to me. I called my dad that night. Needed his perspective. Dad, Stacy asked for space, then went to Hawaii with her ex. I'm changing the locks and selling her car. Dead silence for a moment. Then, son, your Uncle Dave lost his house over less. You're doing what needs to be done. He cleared his throat. Need help moving furniture? The understanding had been that Stacy would make payments to me for the Mazda, which she did, sometimes late, but it was her car to use day to day. Legally, though, it was 100% mine. I'd never added her name to anything. I took the spare key, drove it to a dealership that buys used cars, explained simply that I was the registered owner and needed to sell. They offered around $16,500 pending inspection. I signed the initial paperwork and left the car there, her designated parking spot at the apartment complex. Empty. The manager at the dealership raised an eyebrow when I mentioned I was selling my fiancée's car. I just shrugged and said, she wanted space. I'm giving her about 16,500 square feet of it. Called Tristan to pick me up. He was impressed. Damn, you're ice cold right now, but she deserves it. We spent the weekend boxing up her stuff from the apartment. Not throwing anything out, just getting it ready. Every designer shoe I counted 37 pairs. Every overpriced handbag. Every piece of jewelry I'd given her for birthdays and anniversaries. All carefully packed away. We found some interesting things during the process. Credit card statements showing thousands in debt she'd never once mentioned to me, a hidden stash of emergency cash, about $800, taped to the back of her dresser, and a journal where she'd written a pros and cons list about me versus Jordan, dated 3 months ago. My name had financial stability and good future father in the pros column. Jordan had exciting, passionate, and history together on his side. Oh, guess which direction she was leaning, based on her current location. I also had a meeting with my lawyer, shared the screenshots, explained the full situation, asked about protecting myself. Arizona is not a common law marriage state, so at least there was that. We'd never merged finances. My apartment was solely in my name. The car was legally mine. He advised documenting everything. The engagement termination, the car sale, the items in the apartment, told me to communicate only in writing going forward. Through the entire process, I felt calm, like performing necessary surgery. Did I feel like a complete idiot? Absolutely. But emotions weren't driving this bus. Logic was. She asked for space and no contact. She demonstrated the relationship was over by vacationing with her ex while wearing my ring on her finger. I was simply respecting her wishes, and she had absolutely no idea what was waiting for her when she got back. The shop was quiet that weekend. I went in anyway, just to have somewhere to be. Started reorganizing the tool room, deep cleaning equipment, updating the inventory system, all those things that get pushed aside during busy weeks. Something therapeutic about bringing order to a physical space when your personal life is in complete chaos. Like if you can control the tools on the wall, maybe you can control something. Diego, my head mechanic, came in for a few hours to help with a rush job. Didn't ask why I was there on a Sunday, just handed me tools when I needed them, without a word. That's what I appreciate about the guys at the shop. They understand that sometimes you need to work with your hands to process what's happening in your head. According to Instagram, the best life vacation lasted another full week. The countdown to meltdown was officially on. One small mercy in all of this, at least my Ducati was safe. Stacy had always complained about it, said it was too dangerous, a waste of money, but I'd stood firm on keeping it every single time she brought it up. When Tristan picked me up from the dealership, he looked at me and said, "Bike ride this weekend, you need it." He was right. She'd actually tried to get me to sell the Ducati about 6 months into our relationship. "We could use that money for a down payment on a bigger place," she'd suggested. Never mind that I already owned my apartment. Never mind that I had zero interest in taking on more debt for a bigger place we didn't need. The Ducati stayed, and now I was deeply grateful for that small victory. Sunday morning, Tristan and I took our bikes up through the mountains, him on his Kawasaki, me on the Ducati. The focus required to handle those curves at speed is exactly what I needed. It's impossible to think about relationship drama when you're calculating lean angles and watching the road for gravel. Your brain has one job, and it does it. The one part one genuinely felt guilty about was Max. Stacy had technically agreed to our dog, but she'd never really taken care of him. She'd complained about his fur, his energy, the cost of his food. Still, I figured he'd be confused when she didn't come back. Turns out, I didn't need to worry. Max seemed happier with just me there, cleaning the whole couch without being shooed off it. Some dogs read the room better than people do. Stacy's tropical getaway with Jordan lasted a total of 10 days. Then D-Day arrived, Tuesday evening. Around 9 p.m. I was having a beer with Tristan, who had insisted on being present for this specific moment. Said he wanted a front row seat just in case things got wild. We heard keys jangling outside, then confused scraping at the lock, then pounding. "Luke, open the door. My key isn't working." Tristan glanced at me slowly. "Showtime." I opened the door halfway. Stacy stood there looking sun-tanned and furious. Suitcase beside her, fresh off the island and ready to walk back into a life she'd left behind. "What the hell? Why isn't my key working?" "Because I changed the locks." My voice was steady, completely steady. Her eyes went wide. "You what? Why would you do that?" "You asked for space and no contact, Stacy." I said it calmly. "I gave it to you. Permanently." "Wedding's canceled too. Already called everyone." "What are you talking about?" "I just needed some time to think." I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshot Melissa had sent me. "Think about this? With Jordan? On your romantic beach getaway that you posted about publicly?" Her face went from angry to panic-stricken in about half a second. That was just Melissa showed you that?" "That's it's not what it looks like. Looks like my fiancée on vacation with her ex while I was home planning our wedding. Pretty self-explanatory." It was a last-minute thing. He was going through a hard time and needed someone to talk to. From somewhere behind me, Tristan snorted. I just stared at her. "So you flew to Maui to be his therapist?" Her eyes darted past me to the empty parking spot. "Where's my car, Luke?" The entitlement in her voice was something else, like I'd hidden her favorite toy. "It's not your car. Never was. It's being sold. Title, loan, insurance, all in my name." "You're selling my car." She actually stomped her foot, like a child. "You can't do that. I've been making payments for using my car, which is now over. This is insane. I'm calling the cops." She pulled out her phone. Tristan, who'd been watching the whole thing from behind me with visible amusement, started laughing. "Yeah, go ahead. Call them. Tell them your ex-fiancé is selling his own car and changed the locks on his own apartment after you cheated on him. That'll go real well." Stacy looked like she just noticed him standing there. "This isn't your business." "Tristan made it my business," I said quietly, "when you decided to mess around on my best friend." She turned back to me, voice shifting, softer now, calculated. "Luke, baby, you're overreacting. Jordan means nothing to me. It was just a stupid trip to clear my head. I realized I want to be with you." I almost laughed. "Save the performance. Your stuff is boxed up. Text me when you want to come. Pick it up." That's when her sister Brooke appeared from the elevator. Of course, reinforcements. Brooke was Stacy's mini-me. Same entitled attitude, same expensive taste, same tendency to treat service workers like furniture. The only real difference was that Brooke hadn't found her own sucker to bankroll her lifestyle yet. "What's going on?" she demanded. "Stacy, full waterworks now." "He changed the locks. He sold my car. He canceled our wedding." Brooke glared at me like I'd committed actual war crimes. "After everything my sister has done for you, you just throw her out?" Tristan didn't even hesitate. "What exactly has she done for him besides take a beach vacation with her ex?" I held up a hand, cutting off the brewing argument before it started. "Check her Instagram. We're done." From inside the apartment, Max started barking at all the commotion. Stacy's eyes went wide. "Are you keeping Max too?" The audacity was genuinely breathtaking. "The dog whose name you couldn't remember half the time? That dog?" "Yes." "She needed space to think," Brooke cut in, practically screaming now. "Not for you to ruin her entire life." "She made choices," I said simply. "Now she gets to live with the consequences. Your stuff will be in the lobby tomorrow at noon, 1-hour window. If it's not picked up, it goes to Goodwill." I shut the door and locked it. Through the door, I could hear Stacy's meltdown intensifying, her voice rising, then cracking, then rising again. Tristan just shook his head slowly. "Dude, bullet dodged. Want another drink?" Max, who'd been anxiously watching the door the whole time, walked over and put his head on my knee. I scratched behind his ears. "It's just us now, buddy." Tristan raised his bottle. "It's the most expensive lesson you'll ever learn." I clinked mine against his. "Worth every penny." Later that night, after Tristan left, I sat on my balcony looking out at the city lights. For the first time in months, I felt like I could actually breathe. No more explaining why I needed to work late at the shop. No more defending time with my friends. No more negotiating over a motorcycle that was never hers to have an opinion about. I sent a quick text to my dad. "It's done. Locks changed. Car sold. Wedding canceled." His response came back about a minute later. "Proud of you, son. Come by for steaks this weekend. Bring Max." Your mom would have kicked her ass, by the way. That made me smile. Mom had been gone 6 years. But Dad was right. She'd have seen through Stacy in a heartbeat. The next day was like watching someone realize gravity exists. Right after stepping off a cliff, Stacy's text started at 6 in the morning. "You can't do this to me. Where am I supposed to live? I need my car for work. We need to talk about this like adults. I made a mistake, but you're being cruel." I didn't respond to any of them. Tristan and I loaded up her boxes and brought them down to the lobby at noon sharp. I'd organized everything by category: shoes, bags, jewelry, labeled clearly, the kind of courtesy she absolutely didn't deserve, but I provided anyway, because I'm not an animal. Stacy showed up with Brooke and her mother, Cheryl. Of course. Cheryl, the original source of Stacy's entitlement, immediately launched into me the second she stepped out of the car. "Luke, this is completely unacceptable behavior. Stacy made one mistake. She was confused. She's under so much pressure with the wedding." "Not anymore, she's not." I gestured to the boxes. "Everything's here. You have 1 hour." Cheryl's face darkened. "My daughter lived in that apartment for a year, without being on the lease, without paying rent, driving a car she didn't own." I nodded. "Seems like the free ride is over." Cheryl's face turned purple. Stacy was alternating between crying and throwing daggers at me with her eyes. Brooke was on her phone, probably updating the family drama group chat in real time. I left them to it, told the doorman they had until 1 p.m., then went to lunch with Tristan. When we came back, they were gone, along with everything that belonged to them. Mission accomplished. But it didn't end there. The texts and calls multiplied. Stacy, Brooke, Cheryl. Even their dad eventually got in on it. When blocking their numbers didn't work, they started using friends' phones to reach me. The narrative they were spinning was something else entirely. According to them, I had brutally discarded Stacy over one small misunderstanding, stolen her car, and kept her apartment hostage. No mention of the beach vacation with the ex, of course. That part mysteriously never made it into their version of the story. Stacy's social media went into overdrive. Vague posts about trusting the wrong person, healing from betrayal. A particularly dramatic one showed her staring wistfully out a window. The caption read, "Sometimes, the people you take a bullet for are the ones holding the gun." The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then mutual friends started reaching out. "Dude, that's cold. Selling her car like that. Man, couldn't you have given her more time to find a place?" Melissa, bless her heart, was shutting that down wherever she could. He has screenshots, people. She was on a romantic trip with her ex while wearing an engagement ring. Then Melissa texted me directly. She got me fired. Stacy had gone to their boss, claimed Melissa was creating a hostile work environment by meddling in her personal life. That pissed me off more than anything else in this entire situation. Melissa had done the right thing. She told the truth, and Stacy destroyed her job out of pure spite. I called Melissa immediately, offered to help with references, connections, anything she needed. It was the very least I could do. I knew she was self-centered, Melissa said quietly, but I didn't think she'd go this far. I promised to put her in touch with industry contacts who might be hiring. She had real skills. Stacy's vindictiveness was not going to derail her career if I had anything to say about it. That night, Tristan came over for our weekly gaming session. We fired up Call of Duty. Max lounged at our feet. Normal, comfortable, easy. My phone kept buzzing. Stacy using yet another friend's number to get through. Tristan grabbed my phone between rounds and started reading the messages out loud in a high-pitched, dramatic voice. "You're making a huge mistake, Luke. I was confused, but I choose you. Please respond." He scrolled to the next one. "My mother is very disappointed in you and says you're behaving childishly." I clutched my chest in fake horror. "Guess I'll just cry myself to sleep on my Ducati." Tristan read another. "I hope you know you're breaking my heart. I cried all night thinking about our wedding." He nearly choked on his drink. "Oh my God, she's seriously complaining about her vacation time after cheating on you." My phone buzzed again. He looked at it and burst out laughing. "Dude, She just texted, "I miss Max. He misses me too. Dogs need a mother." I glanced over at Max, who was contentedly chewing his favorite toy, completely unbothered by the entire universe. Yeah, he's clearly devastated. Look at him, practically wasting away from grief. Tristan scrolled further. Wait, here's one from her dad. "Luke, I've always respected you as a businessman, but your behavior toward my daughter is unacceptable. We expect you to make this right." He looked up at me. "What exactly does make this right mean?" "Give her back the car I paid for. Let her live in my apartment rent-free." Tristan stared at me. Probably all of the above, plus a groveling apology for having the audacity to be upset about her cheating. The whole situation had crossed so far into absurdity. It had almost become comedy. Stacy and her family lived in a world where actions didn't have consequences. At least, not for them. In their version of reality, I was the villain, the guy who'd overreacted, who'd been unreasonable, who'd ruined everything over nothing. And the thing is, they genuinely believed that. But the rest of us knew exactly what had happened. She asked for space. I gave her exactly what she asked for, and not a single thing about that was my fault. Building it back better than before in their version of reality. I was the villain, the guy who responded logically to betrayal, and somehow became the monster in the story. Fine. I had work to do. At the shop, I threw myself into a new project, a vintage Honda CB750 that a client had dropped off for a complete restoration. There's something deeply therapeutic about tearing an engine down to its individual components, cleaning each part, inspecting it, understanding it, and then building it back up, better than it was before. The shop became my sanctuary, a place where problems had logical solutions, where every task had a clear beginning and a clear end. No games, no manipulation, just work. My employees noticed the change in me. Diego, my head mechanic, finally asked what was going on after I spent 3 straight hours reconfiguring a wiring harness without once taking a break. I gave him the highlight reel. His response was perfect. A slow nod. Then, "Women, man. My cousin went through the same thing." A pause. "You want me to order those brake calipers for the Triumph while you finish that wiring?" That was exactly what I needed. Practical solutions, not drama. The shop stayed open late that week as I poured myself into the work. Nothing cures heartbreak like productivity and a bank account that's growing instead of bleeding money on someone else's desires. Dad stopped by the shop on Thursday with lunch. It was a tradition he'd started when I first opened the place. He'd bring sandwiches from this little deli near his house, and we'd eat in my office, talking about everything and nothing. "How you holding up?" he asked between bites. "Better than expected," I admitted. "Work helps." He nodded slowly. "Your Uncle Dave gained 15 pounds after his divorce. Sat around eating microwave burritos and watching game shows for 6 months." He looked at me. "You're doing it right. Stay busy. Keep moving forward." Simple advice, but exactly what I needed to hear. 2 weeks after Stacy's return, the real harassment campaign started. First came the police. I got home from work to find a patrol car parked outside my building. 2 officers wanted to talk about a domestic dispute and allegations that I was withholding personal property. I showed them the documentation my lawyer had already prepared. Proof of car ownership, apartment lease in my name only, canceled wedding receipts. The screenshot of Stacy with Jordan at the beach explained that I had personally returned all of her possessions. They left satisfied. This was a relationship issue, not a legal one. One officer gave me a quiet, knowing look as they were heading out. "Document everything from here on out," he said. "These situations tend to escalate." Words of wisdom from someone who'd clearly seen this exact story before. The next day, a call from my landlord about a noise complaint. An anonymous neighbor had reported loud arguments and possible domestic disturbances. I explained the situation. Thankfully, I had a solid relationship with the property manager, she admitted. She'd already seen Stacy trying to tailgate residents into the building several times against building policy. Then things escalated further. Stacy and Brooke started showing up at my workplace, just happening to be in the lobby when I was leaving for the day. Once, Stacy tried to force her way into the elevator with me, screaming about how I'd ruined her life. Diego and the guys formed a protective barrier the second they saw what was happening. "Boss, you want us to call security?" Diego asked, positioning himself calmly between Stacy and me. I nodded. They escorted the sisters out. No hesitation, no questions asked. My team had my back. Completely. This was getting out of control. I filed a police report documenting the harassment, started recording every single interaction, saved every text and voicemail, installed a security camera at my apartment door, connected directly to my phone, and gave the front desk a photo of Stacy with clear instructions not to let her up under any circumstances. The breaking point came when I woke up one morning to find my car's tires slashed. All 4 of them. The security camera footage was crystal clear. Brooke, at 3 a.m, kneeling beside each tire, methodically puncturing them with what looked like a hunting knife. Her face fully visible the entire time. Police were called. Charges filed. The damage report came in at over $800. All 4 tires were high-performance ones I'd upgraded to the previous year. Insurance covered it after the deductible. But the hassle of getting the car towed and repaired was a major inconvenience, and it put me on edge. I was paranoid about the Ducati after that. Started parking it in a secure garage a full block away just to be safe. No way I was letting them anywhere near that bike. That motorcycle represented years of hard work and discipline. If they had damaged it, I'm honestly not sure I could have maintained my composure. That same day, I got an email from Jordan. Of all people. Man, I'm sorry about all this. She told me you 2 were already over before our trip. I didn't know you were still engaged. She's been showing up at my place, too. Just thought you should know. Turns out Stacy had fed him a complete fiction that we'd broken up weeks earlier, that I was possessive and controlling and wouldn't accept that it was over. When Jordan found out the truth from mutual friends, he ended things immediately. Now she was showing up at his apartment unannounced, crying, demanding another chance. "Bullet dodged, brother," he said before hanging up. Couldn't argue with that. Later, I found out Stacy had been spreading rumors that I was abusive, that I controlled her finances, that I had trapped her in the relationship. Classic behavior, casting herself as the victim of a controlling monster, rather than a woman who got caught cheating and lost her comfortable free ride. The problem with her narrative, too many people had seen the actual reality. My neighbors had seen me walking Max alone every single night while she was inside watching Netflix. My employees had seen her show up at the shop demanding money when her credit cards were maxed out. Our friends had seen how she treated service staff when she thought nobody important was watching. The truth had too many witnesses. Through all of it, Tristan and Melissa were rock solid. Tristan let Stacy know through a mutual friend that I was documenting everything for a restraining order. Melissa, despite having lost her job because of Stacy's spite, sent me additional screenshots. Stacy bragging to friends about the beach trip before she'd even left. Luke thinks I'm just taking time to think, lol. Meanwhile, Jordan and I will be living it up in paradise. The screenshots had timestamps, dates, the whole 9 yards, undeniable, premeditated, deliberate deception. I added everything to the growing file my lawyer was keeping. I called my dad after the tire slashing incident. "They're escalating," I told him. Slashed my tires, showing up at work, spreading rumors. Makes sense, he said, surprisingly calm. How does any of this make sense, Dad? Son, you took away her free ride. People don't give up resources without a fight. Your uncle's ex-wife did the same thing. Keyed his truck. Told the neighbors he was cheating. It's what happens when the gravy train stops rolling. He paused. You got that security camera set up like I showed you? Yes, sir. Caught her sister on video with a knife. Good man. I filed for the restraining order. I had a mountain of evidence. The workplace incidents, the slashed tires, the constant harassment from rotating phone numbers, the false police reports. Dozens of messages sent after being blocked. The hearing was scheduled. I was ready. The restraining order hearing was like watching a live-action version of someone who genuinely cannot believe their actions have consequences. Stacy showed up with Cheryl, both dressed like they were attending Sunday church service, probably expecting the judge to see a confused, heartbroken young woman who deserves sympathy. I showed up with my lawyer and a binder full of documented evidence. Stacy's strategy became clear quickly. Play the devastated, confused young woman who made one mistake and was now being excessively punished by a cold, controlling ex. It might have actually worked if we didn't have the receipts. My lawyer methodically laid out the full pattern of harassment. The judge flipped through the evidence with an increasingly stern expression. The restraining order was granted immediately. 3 years. No contact. No coming within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. That should have been the end. But Stacy's family had one more card to play. The desperation card. About a month after the hearing, Cheryl called. The family was in financial distress. Stacy couldn't hold a job without transportation. Brooke had legal bills from the vandalism charge. They needed help. Could I please reconsider selling Stacy her car back to her? Maybe loan them some money to get back on their feet? I laughed. The absolute, breathtaking audacity. These people had tried to destroy my reputation, my career, and my property. And now they wanted financial assistance. Cheryl, I said calmly, Stacy and Brooke are both in violation of the restraining order by having you contact me. I'm forwarding this call to my lawyer and the police. A beat. Don't call again. Later, I heard through the grapevine what happened next. Stacy had been fired from her job, repeatedly missing work because she had no transportation, doesn't fly professionally, no matter how many excuses you have. The beach trip had maxed out her credit cards completely. She'd been crashing at her parents' house, but had succeeded in driving a serious wedge into their marriage with her constant demands and chaos. Jordan was long gone. He'd blocked her after she showed up drunk at his apartment one too many times. Brooke had community service for the tire slashing plus restitution payments. As for me, I sold the engagement ring, took a 2-week vacation to Europe, solo, posted exactly 0 photos online. When I got back, I painted the entire apartment, bought new furniture, reclaimed my space completely. The place looked better than it ever had. Clean, functional, peaceful. The space where a man and his dog could simply live in peace. Tristan and I kept our weekly routine going, and somewhere along the way, he started hitting it off with Melissa, which was an unexpected silver lining nobody saw coming. They'd been dating about a month. Sometimes the 4 of us, counting Max, would hang out at my place for game nights. Easy evenings, good food, no drama. It was genuinely nice. Watching 2 people actually treat each other with real respect. The shop was thriving. After that first week of fog, I'd thrown myself into a major custom project, transforming a beat-up Harley Sportster into something special, stripped it down to the frame, rebuilt the engine with performance parts, custom paint job with subtle metal flake that shifted color depending on the light. Tristan stopped by during the final assembly and let out a slow whistle. Man, You really outdid yourself on this one. The tank paint alone is worth whatever you're charging." The client who commissioned it was so impressed. He referred 3 friends, all of them wanting similar work. Word of mouth in the motorcycle community is better than any advertising you could ever pay for. Diego and the crew had really stepped up during the whole Stacy situation too. There were days when I wasn't at my best, and they quietly picked up the slack without complaint. When the Sportster project got featured in a motorcycle magazine, I made sure they all got full credit and bonuses. A good team is worth their weight in gold. About 3 months after the restraining order, I was at a motorcycle show in Las Vegas, displaying one of my custom builds. A woman came up and started asking detailed questions about the fabrication work. Not the usual, it's pretty comments. Specific technical questions that showed she actually knew what she was looking at. Sarah, 28 years old, turned out to be an industrial designer who rode a Triumph Street Triple. We exchanged numbers professionally, but ended up texting about bikes, then other things, then everything. We've been dating casually for a couple of months now. She has her own career, her own apartment, her own money, her own opinions about engine design that she can back up with actual knowledge, and she scratches Max behind the ears exactly where he likes it. The first time Sarah came over, Max immediately brought her his favorite toy, something he had never once done with Stacy. Dogs know quality people the second they walk through the door. Sarah came to Sunday lunch at my dad's house last week. She and Dad spent 2 full hours talking about motorcycle engine design while I stood at the grill cooking steaks. Dad texted me later that evening. "She knows her stuff. Smart pick, son. High praise. From a man who is suspicious of everyone by default." I learned more about myself in those few months than I had in the entire previous decade. I learned I'm stronger than I thought I was, that I have people in my corner who will show up without being asked, without hesitation, and that sometimes the best thing you can do with toxic people in your life is cut them out completely, cleanly, without looking back. These days, I'm too busy building bikes and building a better life to dwell on what might have been. The shop floor smells like engine oil and ambition. Max is asleep under my desk. Sarah's texting me about a trail ride this weekend, and somewhere in a secure garage a block away, my Ducati is waiting. Midnight black, custom exhaust, untouched, unbothered, exactly where I left it. Some lessons are expensive, but man, are they worth it?